Welcome to my YouTube channel. Nohan. This is the story of a young American woman who believed in love with all her heart. She trusted a wealthy man who looked kind, polished, and sincere. She thought she had found safety, affection, and a future. But the truth hidden behind his smile broke her heart in the cruelest way. In the end, life gave every person exactly what their action deserved. This story carries love, pain, regret, justice, and a strong lesson about honesty, self respect, and a price of deception. A quiet girl with a soft heart. A quiet girl with a soft heart. In a small neighborhood in Denver, a young woman named Nora Bennett lived in a simple life. Nora was 25-year-old. She was warm, polite, and quiet in that way that made people feel a claim around her. She did not come from wealth. She did not have powerful connection. She did not live in a large home or wear expensive clothes, but she had something many people with money never had. She had sincerity. Nora worked at a bookstore cafe near downtown in the morning. She prepared coffee, arranged pastries, and helped customers find novels, journals, and children books. In the evening, she sometimes stayed late to clean, shave, and organize deliveries. Her life was not glamorous. Her life was not glorious, but it was stable enough to give her peace. She rented a modest apartment with pale walls, second-hand furniture, and a small balcony where she kept two flower pots. Every Sunday, she called her aunt in Aho. Every payday, she saved a little money in an envelope, market future. She dreamed of one day opening a cozy reading cafe for women and children, a place full of books, music, and warm light. Nora believed in kindness. She believed in honest work, and deep inside, she believed in real love. That belief came from her parents. They had not been rich, but they had loved each other with loyalty and patience. Nora grew up watching small gestures that mean everything. Her father bringing sound when her mother was tired, her mother ironing his work shirts before sunrise. They respect each other even during difficult years. Nora wanted that kind of love, not falsy, not loud, real. Still, life had not given her much romance. Men sometimes noticed her, but she never liked games, fake words, or shallow charm. She wanted something serious, something safe. She did not know that the one person who would soon enter her life looked polished on the outside, but carry dishonesty in the center of his soul. The man who seemed perfect. One rainy Thursday evening in October, the cafe was busy with coffee workers escaping the cold. Nora moved between tables, balancing cup and wiping small spills as she placed a letter near the window. She noticed a man sitting alone with the letter folding, a dark coat, and a kind of confidence that usually belonged to every successful people. His name was Blake Whitmore. He looked composed, handsome, and refined. He had the busy posture of a man used to fine restaurants, private meetings, and expensive suits. His watch alone probably cost more than Nora's monthly rent, yet his expression that evening looked strangely tried. When Nora approached his table to ask if he needed anything else, he looked up and gave a small smile. He looked up and gave a small smile. Just one more coffee, please, he said. His voice was smooth, respectful, and clean. Nora added and returned with the coffee of a few minutes later. He thanked her and glanced at the book tucked under her arm. It was a classic novel she had been reading during break time. You like the author? He said. Nora looked surprised. Yes, he wrote loneliness very well. The answer stayed with her. Most men who noticed books in a cafe only tried to sound clear for a minute, but Blake seemed like someone who genuinely read. That was rare. When he came back the next evening, he asked her opinion on another novel for the first run. The next week, he returned again, then again. At first, Nora thought he was simply a regular customer, but then he began timing his visits around her shift. But then he began timing his visit. But he began but then he began timing his visits around her shifts. He asked about her favorite writers, her goals, and the reason she always arranged flowers near the pastry display. He listened closely when she spoke. He never interrupted. He did not feel in a loud or obvious way. His approach was softer, which made him seem more sincere. Nora slowly let her guard down one evening after the cafe had nearly emptied. Black shade, you look like someone who carries a lot of goodness quietly. Nora laughed awkwardly. That sounds like something from one of the books. Maybe, he said, but I meant it. Those words touched something gentle inside her. She asked what he did for work. He answered carefully, finance and property investment, mostly long meetings and too many emails. He did not say that he owned luxury developments across several states. He had private drivers on cars and came from a family worth tens of millions. He liked the Nora saw him as a man, not a fortune. But the truth was not that simple, because Black was hiding much more than wealth. The love Nora thought was real. Over the next 2 months, Black and Nora grew close. He started taking her to quiet place with warm lighting and live piano music. He chose elegant restaurant, but not one so public that she would feel uncomfortable. He brought her books with notes stuck inside the page. He sent flowers to the cafe with simple cards that said things like, "For the brightest part of my week." Nora had never experienced attention like that before. He told herself to stay careful. He reminded herself that wealthy men often enjoy temporary excitement, but Blake never treated her like a passive distraction. He looked serious. He sounded sincere. He spoke about emotional wounds from his past. He said he had spent years feeling empty despite success. He made her feel chosen, not used. One snowy evening, he took her to a private rooftop dinner overlooking Denver lights. The city looked soft beneath the winter sky. He told her hand across the table and said, "I did not accept to meet someone who makes the world feel quiet in a good way." Nora felt her heart open in that moment. She believed him, and that was the beginning of her deepest mistake, because love, when mixed with trust, can make a good person ignore small warning signs. There were signs. Black never invited her to his main home. He said he owned several places and mostly stayed in a luxury apartment near business meetings. He sometimes disappeared for a day with excuse about urgent travel. He never posted about her publicity. Thought he said he valued privacy. He avoided introducing her to a family. Whenever she gently mentioned meeting someone close to him, he would kiss her forehead and say, "Soon." I wanted things to feel right first. Nora accepted those delays because she loved him, and love often tells her to wait longer than wisdom allow. And the love often tells her to wait longer than wisdom would allow. By January, their bond felt deep. Black told her that wanted to a future that looked peaceful and real, and said she was tired of shallow paper and hollow spaces. He said Nora made him want to become a better man. Nora believed every word. One night, wrapped in candlelight and soft music, she told him, "I never trusted anyone this much." Black looked at her hand and answered, "Then I will never give you a reason to regret it." The sentence would later echo in her memory like a wound. The truth hidden behind the smile. There was one person in Black's life who knew exactly what he was doing. His life, her name was Evelyn Whitmore. Her name was Evelyn Whitmore. Evelyn was elegant, intelligent, and respected in social circles. She had married Black 5 years earlier, when both families believed that much would strengthen business ties and public images. On the surface, they looked perfect together, wealthy wealthy, attractive, educated, controlled, but their marriage had long been emotionally cold. They lived in the same world, but not in the same truth. Evelyn, now Black, had become distant. She now he spent too many evenings away under vague work excuses. She now he guarded his phone more carefully than before. She suspected another woman existed, but she had not proof yet. Black told himself he stayed in the marriage because it was complicated. There was assessed reputation, family expectation, and legal matter tied together. But the real reason was simpler and uglier. He wanted both lives at once. He wanted the Polish security of his marriage and the emotional devotion of Nora. That was not confusion. That was selfishness. And selfishness always breeds damage far beyond the person choosing it. Still, Nora, now none of this. He continued loving him with sincerity. Then life changed again. The child she did not accept. In the early spring, Nora began feeling tired more often. At first, she thought it was stress. Then came dizziness, nausea, and the sudden emotional sensitivity that made little things feel bigger than usual. After several uneasy days, she bought a pregnancy test from a pharmacy 3 blocks from her apartment. She stood in her small bathroom with shaking head. When the result appeared, she sat down slowly on the closed toilet seat and stared at in the silence. Pregnant from several minutes. She could not think clearly. Her heart broke fast with fear, wonder, and disbelief. Then tears filled her eyes. She whispered one hand over her stomach and whispered, "Oh, Nora had no plans. Her life was modest, fragile, and far from prepared. But she has also believed that a child was not a mistake. It was a life, a responsibility, a square turning point. And deep down, she vowed Black would stand beside her. He had spoken about the future. He had promised she could trust him. So after 2 days of trying to find the right words, she asked him to meet her in the park near the museum district, the place where they had once talked for hours. On a spring evening, Black arrived in a car carrying his usual Polish flame. Nora stood near a bench Nora stood near a bench beneath early budding trees. She looked nervous but hopeful. "What happened?" she asked softly. Nora took a breath. "I'm pregnant." For the first time since she had known him, Blake's face lost control. His eyes were withered, his shoulder shifting, his silence lasted too long. Nora felt her chest tighten. "I know this is a lot," she said quickly. "I know the timing is not perfect, but I wanted to tell you in a person because this is a matter, and I thought we should face it together." Black looked away. The small movement frightened her more than any loud reaction could have. Finally, he said, "Nora, this is a complicated." Her earthquake changed at once. Complicated how? He rubbed a hand over his mouth. "There was a thing I did not tell you." The air around her suddenly felt cold. "What thing?" Black closed his eyes for a second, then opened them again. "I am married." Nora stared at him as if she had stopped understanding language. No sound came out of her. Then she stepped back. "No, I was going to explain." Her face changed from a confusion to horror. "You are married?" It was not been a real marriage for a long time. This was the first terrible sentence he chose, and it made everything worse. Nora shook her head in disbelief. "You told me you wanted a future with me." "I did mean that." "How can you mean that when you have a life?" He tried to reach her for a hand, but she moved away instantly. Tears filled her eyes, but her voice grew firmer. Every dinner, every promise, every kind word, every now. Black face showed shame, but not kind of shame that fixed anything. It was the shame of a man finally concerned. It was the shame of a man finally covered by his own choices. "I did not want to lose you," he said. Nora laughed once through tears, a broken sound, full of pain. "You never had the right to have me." She returned away, trembling. "Nora, please." She forced him one last night. "You let me love a lie." Then she walked away from a bench with tears burning the path in front of her. Black did not follow and did not tell her everything. The day her heart broke, Nora spent the next week in emotional darkness. She still went to work because Ren did not care about heartbreak. She still smiled at customers because pain does not stop the world from asking you a function, but it's inside. She felt shattered. She carried in the shower too so night work would not hear. She sat awake at night, replaying every conversation, every gift, every promise, asking herself how she missed the truth more than anger. She felt humiliation. She felt humiliation. She felt trusted him fully. She had given her heart to a man who belonged to another life, and now she was carrying his child. Her her co-worker Janely Rivers noticed her fading energy and finally pulled her inside during closing time. Nora, something is very wrong. Nora tried to say she was fine. Nora tried to say she was fine, but her voice cracked. Generally took her into a storage room, but shut the door and waited. As everything came out, the hidden marriage, the pregnancy, the betrayal. Generally listening with wide, sorrowful eyes. When Nora finished, Generally hugged her and said, "Listen to me very carefully. This lie is not your shame." Nora carried harder. Janela continued, "You loved honesty." He lied, disbelieved. There was not the same. The sentence became a small light in the middle of Nora's pain. Still morning, remembered, still more remained heavy. She felt fear about the baby, fear about money, fear about raising a child alone, fear about being judged. Black sent message. Nora did not answer. He called. He blocked the number. He sent flower. He left them outside her apartment door until they waited. She did not want gifts. She wanted the truth he stole from her in the beginning. When the life learned the truth, Black had hoped to manage the situation quietly, but lies rarely stayed under control. Once they began collapsing, Evelyn discovered the truth through something simple and painful. One afternoon, while Blake was showering before a gala event, his second phone lit up on the bathroom counter. He had thought it was off. Evelyn saw the screen. A message preview from an unsaved number appeared. It read, "You do not get to ask about the baby after laying about your whole life." Evelyn froze. She picked up the phone with cold hand, unlocked it using a code she knew from old habits, and found months of message, photos, private plans, and broke Blake had never once spoken to her with that kind of warmth. Her marriage ended emotionally in less than 5 minutes. When Blake stepped out of a bathroom, he found Evelyn sitting on the edge of the bed with the phone in her hand and his entire secret open between them. He stopped instantly. She looked at him with a face of empty of vision. "How long?" Blake did not answer right away. "How long?" Evelyn repeated, this time with claim anger. "Several months." "Who is she?" "A woman from Denver." Evelyn let out a bitter breath. "Do not insult me with half thrusts," he finally said. "Her name is Nora, and she is pregnant." He closed his eyes. That was enough. Evelyn stood. She was not dramatic. She did not scream. This that made the moment even more sacred. "You have spent years acting like emotional distance made you noble," she said quietly. "But this is not distance. This is deception. Evelyn, our marriage has been broken for a long time." She looked at him with deep disappointment. "Then you end it before destroying someone else's life." He had no answer. She placed the phone on the table and said, "I am leaving." He stepped forward. "Let us handle this privately." She gave him a look filled with exhausted contempt. She gave him a look filled with exhausted contempt. "This is exactly what a dishonest man says, when his image is more important than his character." Within 3 weeks, Evelyn filed for divorce. Finally, friend found out. Business circle whispered. Black name, once clean and polished, began carrying another tune. Not illegal scandal, moral strain. And in high-level business world, trust is often more valuable than charm. The fall of wealthy man. Black lived, he could survive the damage. He still had poverty, he still had investor, he still had trader, but life but life was already shifting against him. First come the divorce settlement, which was far more expensive and public than he expected. Evelyn had strong legal representation and a clear documentation. Black did not lose everything, but he lost a painful portion of personal asset and a several shared luxury holdings. Then came a bad stories of Marquis Lucian, a major commercial project he had overvalued began collapsing under debt pressure. One investor group pulled out, another filed a claim after discovering had financial risk. Black had this downplayed. A luxury resort development resettled because permits were delayed and funding tightened. At the same time, his father, long-time business allies, lost trust in his judgment, not because of an affair, because the affair revealed something deeper. A man willing to deceive immediately could also mislead professionally. That fear separated faster than Black expected. Meeting became colder. Calls stopped coming back one by one. The door that once opened easily for him began closely. He sold one apartment, then another property, then a vacation house. He dismissed all. He shamed him. He tried to regain footing, but his confidence had cracked now. His judgment worsened under pressure. He drank more than before. He slept less. He grew angry in meetings and careless in contractors. Within 18 months, Black Whitmore was not longer the golden figure people admired at charity events and rooftop pet parties. He was still not poor in the way of ordinary people understood poverty, but he was falling fast. And for the first time in his life, he felt fear not as an abstract concept, but as a daily presence. That the man who once chose Jesse because he thought he could manage every outcome, now watched outcome after outcome slip beyond his control. Faith was not loud, it was steady. Nora chose strength while Blake's life was collapsing under the weight of his own choices. Nora was facing a much harder reality with more dignity. She had decided to keep the baby. The decision came with fear, and long nights of practical worrying, but it also came with moral clarity. She would not let a dishonest man define the value of her child. He would not let a dishonest man define the value of her child. Her aunt Marilyn traveled from Ohio with she learned the truth. She stayed in Nora for 2 weeks, cooked meals, helped her through doctor visits. He reminded her for who she was beyond her grade. Marilyn once sat beside Nora on a small balcony and said, "A man can be bring pain into your story, but he does not get to become author of your it." Nora never forget it. She worked as long as she could, though the pregnancy became more trying by the month. Jelly covered extra shift for her when needed. The cafe manager quietly allowed more schedule flexibility than company rules normally permitted. Nora saw clearly that while one man had broken her trust, other people were helping her survive. That mattered. By the 17th month, she had prepared a teeny corner of her apartment with a soft blankets and a shelf of a children's book. She had everything carefully on a tight budget. With a deep love she no longer carried every day, the pain was still there, but it had changed shape. It was not mixed with purpose. One evening, while folding teeny baby clothes, Nora placed her hand over her stomach and said softly, "You were born from a painful chapter, but you will not live inside pain. I promised you that." The promise transformed her. The began standing slighter, speaking more clearly, protecting her peace more strongly. When Black finally managed to contact her through email and asked to meet, she agreed only in a lawyer office after the child was born. The detail alone showed how much she had changed. A child changed the meaning of life. In late November, Nora gave birth a baby. She named her Lila Grace Bennett. The delivery was long and exhausting, but when Nora first held Lila in her arms, the world seemed to stop for one scared moment. Teeny figure, soft checks, a peaceful little face that now nothing of betrayal. Nora carried as she kissed her daughter's forehead. "You are my blessing," she whispered. Marilyn stood nearby, wiping tears. Generally visited the next day with flower and a children's book. Even though not said, this little girl is deeply loved already, and she was. Lila chained Nora emotional setter. Before, Nora's story had been heartbroken. Now it was about motherhood. That did not erase the pain, but it gave the pain different direction. Instead of asking what playing destroyed, Nora began asking what she wanted to be for her daughter. The answer was clear: safety, honesty, self respect, no lies in the home, no pretending, no chasing approval from people who could not value truth. When Blake finally saw Lila during her marriage legal meeting weeks later, he looked shaken by her existence. She had his eyes. The detail hit him hard. Nora noticed it and felt something strange, not weakness, not longing, only distance. Blake said quietly, "She is beautiful." Nora replied, "She is innocent. She is innocent. Protect that if you want my place in her life." He looked at her, perhaps expecting more softness, but Nora was not the same woman who once believed every Polish promise. They discussed formal sport, boundaries, and legal arguments. Nora kept everything clear, claimed, and documented. She did not insult him. She did not beg for emotional repair. She only protected her child. Blake left that office with papers in hand and silence in the chest. For the first time, he understood what he had truly lost. Not only Nora, not only status, he had lost the chance to become a good man before life forced the lesson on him. The poor man behind the expensive past. By the time Lila turned to Nora, life looked stronger. She had moved a better apartment in a quieter part of the city. She looked bookkeeping stores at night and eventually helping manage operations at the bookstore cafe. Later, she helped launch a reading program for young mothers and children through a local non-profit. Her dreams of creating a safe reading space for women and children no longer felt impossible. It was still away, but it was alive. Lila grew into a bright, gentle child who loved picture, book, and rainy days strong. But Nora built a peaceful home around her. Meanwhile, Blake decline continued. He lost another major property after a defencing deal failed. Lawsuits tied up part of his remaining asset. Friend who once prized him now avoided association. Invitation stopped. Her wardrobe became simpler. His car became ordinary. Her move from penthouses and private club into a smaller rent condo on the edge of a business district that no longer welcomed him warmly. For the first time, Blake lived with social protection. No false admirers, no easy apologies, no polished image strong enough to hide from himself. He sat alone many nights with cheap takeout, finished paperwork, and memories he could not silence. He remembered Nora Trust. He remembered the day in the park when she said, You let me love alive." Those words stayed with him like judgment on winter afternoon. Black saw Nora unexpectedly. She saw leaving the bookstore cafe with Lila hand in hers. Lila was wearing a bright yellow coat and holding a stuffed rabbit. Nora looked older than when he first met her, but also stronger, calmer, and more whole. Black stepped out of her car, almost thinking, "Nora." She turned for a moment. The air stood still. She recognized instantly that he had changed. The expensive force around him was gone. He looked tired in a more honest way now. Black glanced at Lila, then back at Nora. "Can I say hello?" Nora nodded carefully. Black rushed slightly. "Hey, Lila." The little girl looked at him with cautious curiosity. She knew who he was, but only as someone not deeply present. Nora had never spoken poison onto the child heart, but she had also never invented closeness. Lila gave a small wave. Blake smiled faintly, then stood again. After a quiet pause, she said to Nora, "I am sorry." She looked at him steadily. "I know you are." She sallow. "I did not understand the size of what I was destroying." "No," Nora said. "You only understood what you wanted." The answer was fair, and he knew it. He looked down. He admitted, "I lost almost everything." Nora's expression did not change much because she had once lost something too. And unlike Blake, she rebuilt it with honesty. After a moment, she had, "Money was never the main thing you lost." He looked up slowly. Then she looked Lila's hand and added, "A dissonant A dishonest heart makes a rich man poor long before life does. Those words settled over him in silence. The Nora walked away. Blake stood on the sidewalk watching the woman he once divorced move forward with dignity he could not buy back. The meaning of justice. Year passed. Nora reading cafe dream finally come true in modest but beautiful way with saving community, sport, help from the non-profit network she had built. She opened a small place called Grace Corner Book and Tea. It was warm, peaceful, and full of gentle light. There were shelves of children's books, quiet reading of chairs of mothers, tea by front window, and music night once a month. It was not a luxury business, it was something better. It was meaningful. Lila grew up in that environment, surrounded by story, kindness, and truth. She learned early her mother had been through pain but had chosen honesty and mattered dignity instead of cleverness. She learned that honesty matters more than appearance. She learned that a person can be deeply hurt and still become deeply good. Blake remained on the edge of their story. He paid sport more regularly after the legal pressure increased. He saw Lila occasionally through survived arrangement during her early year, then more naturally when trust and boundaries stabilized. He was never a great father, but over time he tried in a small, imperfect ways. Still, some losses do not fully reverse. He could not recover Nora. He could not recover Nora love. He could not recover the respect Ellen lost for him. He could not recover the claimed reputation he enjoyed. He could only live with the truth that deception had cost him more than he imagined. Evelyn, meanwhile, rebuilt her life with quiet strength. She moved to Boston, intercultural philosophy work, and literally married a university professor known for his integrity and clean nature. People who know her said she looked lighter in the years after leaving Blake, and that too was part of life justice. When dishonest people break trust and often imagine the pain will stay trapped inside one moment, but it's separate. It changed home, her future, and name. Still, life also rebuilding. That is a hopeful part. A life can bond it many people. But truth, even after damage, can still build something better. The moral Nora lived by. One evening, when Lila was old enough to ask difficulties question, she sat with Nora by the cafe window after closing. Mom, Lila said softly, did you ever stop being sad? Nora smiled gently, not at all once. Lila looked thoughtful. Then how did you become happy again? Nora pulled her close and answered in simple words. I stopped asking life to return that what it had taken. I started building something honest with what I still had. Lila learned against her shoulder. What was the lesson Nora had learned that hard way? Not every person who say beautiful thing has a beautiful heart. Not every rich life is a good life. Not every broken chapter becomes the end of the story. And not every woman destroyed the betrayal say broken. Nora becomes stronger, not because pain was small. She becomes stronger because her values stayed bigger than the pain. Final closing message of the story. So this was the story of Nora Bennett, a sincere American woman who trusted a wealthy man with her heart and paid a painful price for his dishonesty. This was the story of Blake Whitmore, a rich man who wanted love without truth, comfort without responsibility, and control without consequences. In the end, life stripped away that things that once made him look powerful and forced him to face the emptiness inside his choices. This was also the story of Elvin, the wife who chose self-respect over betrayal. And above all, this was a story of a mother turned abrupt heartbreak, and above all, this was a story of a mother who turned heartbreak into strength and built a clean life for her daughter. The moral is simple and strong. A lie may look successful for a little while, but it always carries loss inside it. A person can have many status and polished image, yet still be poor in character. And a man who respects herself, stand in a truth, and protect her child is stronger than any false promise. The best lesson is this: never trust sweet words more than clear action. Never trade your peace for someone's charm, and never believe that being hurt means your life is over. Sometimes the deepest betrayal becomes the beginning of your strongest soul. Thank you so much.